This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Stacking Benjamins is not for everyone. Side effects may include euphoria, increased ability to meet your goals, and aggression from people wondering, quote, what the hell your secret is. Stacking Benjamins may be habit-forming, especially if you stick around for the entire episode. Wink, wink. Please check with your doctor to see if Stacking Benjamins is right for you.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and get ready to get relevant. Today, we're taking you to interviews Joe did live from the relEVENT conference at the Cosmopolitan Hotel last month in Las Vegas. You'll hear all about innovations coming to a credit union near you so you can make better money decisions. And of course, no show is complete without my mind-bending trivia question. And now, two guys who are always relevant, like at a biker bar, it's Joe and O-G.
Of course, at a biker bar, they don't say sun's out, guns out for no reason. Like when I walk in, just bam, there it is.
Here. Yeah.
Don't mess with me. Hey, everybody, welcome to Wednesday on the Stacking Benjamin Show. We've got a great episode as we take you out to Las Vegas, as Doug so succinctly told you ahead of time. I have been giving some talks lately. This was not a keynote. I was actually hired to be the MC. And while I was out there, I'm like, there is so much here. There's so much goodness, OG, that I have to put a microphone in front of some of these people because, you know, credit unions, let's be clear, they may not have all of the marketing muscle that a bank will have. Like a Bank of America will just outmarket a credit union all day long with those huge budgets.
Well, they'll outspend them.
Well, good point. Yeah. But a credit union is member owned and they have all these fantastic services. You know, we were talking about last week about the library with the net. It's just like, you know, not the same thing as your local library, but there are lots of financial education programs. There's all kinds of good stuff. So we brought that to the forefront today as I went out to Las Vegas. You been to Vegas lately, OG?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was there to see Garthy Brooksy, as you recall, over
that's
Memorial
right.
Day weekend.
Why do you call him that?
Yes.
The Big G.
Garthy Brooksy, is he like 4 years old?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're on a first name basis.
Come here,
Everybody's
Garthy.
got a pet name when it's you and
Garthy,
Brooksy.
put the toad down.
I like how he has his symbol is just a lowercase g in like Times New Roman font.
Really?
You like steal that from me? Is that it?
I think so.
Dude, stealing it from me, I think. Speaking of, by the way, there's some things we have to tell everybody today. First of all, we got a big celebration coming up, guys. We got a huge celebration coming up. Kate, who was on the show, of course, last week, she has a milestone birthday. Let's put it that way. Milestone birthday. So we thought, let's have a birthday celebration. We're going to give away a set of Sennheiser wireless over-ear headphones. These noise canceling headphones, by the way, same product Sennheiser that NPR uses to make their podcasts that are nearly as good as ours.
Those are the good ones, right?
Nearly as good as, yeah, fantastic thing. But if you'd like a set of Sennheiser wireless headphones to help us celebrate Kate's birthday celebration, go to stackingbenjamins.com/birthday bash. Now, here's the deal. We thought, all right, we got to keep the surround sound going. So in honor of Kate's birthday, if you sign up for the 201, you will get an entry because we want to make sure you bring the surround sound. We got the 101 here for people that don't know about it. The 201 is our newsletter, comes out the day after each Monday, Wednesday podcast. You'll get signed up for that and you get an entry. If you already get the 201, we remembered you. If you refer a friend to the 201, they will, of course, your friend will get signed up for the Sennheiser wireless awesome headphones, and so will you. for referring them. And of course, everybody inside the 201, you have your own referral code. Make sure you use your referral code.
Or use mine.
or use mine, right? In front of inside each 201, you'll find your unique referral code. So make sure you use that, and we'll be able to see it, and we'll send you a confirmation that, yep, we saw it and you are registered. Just a couple weeks, but get started here early. stackingbenjamins.com/birthday bash to get in on the big celebration of celebrating Kate's birthday. How about that? And then we got a couple other things, OG. This is an important one. You ready for this one?
I'm sure.
How about here? I'm just going to play this for you.
In business, there is no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. And when you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on, because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else, your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business.
Is that all there is, or is there more?
Of course, there's more. Hold on.
I had a breakfast mentoring meeting yesterday with a young woman who was just amazing. She is graduating from college with a degree in wealth management, and she reached out hoping for some pointers. And listen, if somebody's in Texarkana and wants to go into this beautiful field of personal finance and helping people get their money together, that is incredible. But even more incredible is how she reached out, how she was trying to network. And I was having a discussion that finding the right person and avoiding the wrong person for a role, that's what can make or break an organization. And we just don't see that many qualified people. So how do you find them? Well, Indeed sponsored jobs is a boost whenever you need to find quality talent. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. You can stop struggling to get your job post even seen on other sites. You'll match with quality candidates with Indeed's sponsored jobs. Get matched with and hire quality candidates who can drive the results you need. Reach candidates who meet your specific criteria like skills, certifications, or location. It drives me crazy when I'm matched with all kinds of people who aren't a fit. I don't have that kind of time. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 95% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored job. And here's what's cool, Stackers. You're going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Stacking Benjamins by saying you heard about Indeed right here at Stacking Benjamins. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
You got it?
Perfect. Understood completely.
We're going to take you live out to Las Vegas here in just a moment. So let's get moving. All right, no headline today. We're going to kick things off, though, with my interview with the creator of the relEVENT Conference, Jeff Klein. I just caught up with him now that the relEVENT Conference is over to talk to him about exactly how the relEVENT Conference was created and how credit unions can have a bigger impact on the community they serve. And here's the man who created the conference we're going to talk about today. He's from Choice Creative Solutions, Jeff Klein. How are you, man?
Oh, wonderful. You know, the only The way I can be better if there was a little sunshine over my shoulder here, but we'll power through somehow.
I know. Unfortunately, we're not going to have video for this, but I've got video. I've got you taking a much-deserved vacation after the amazing conference you put on, but you also have an incredible T-shirt on for us today, I noticed.
That's right. It's a shame that nobody can see it, but it says Dad Bod, which I wear like a badge of honor. And so that'll be on display for all the folks down here at the lake this week.
Well, it definitely was a tone conference you put on. How about that for a segue, Jeff? You put on some fantastic days with some great speakers, but let's talk about this just to kick off the interviews people are about to hear. Why did you decide that credit unions needed a conference like relEVENT?
This really spawned from the idea that most credit unions are fairly risk adverse, and rightfully so, right? They're using their members' money. They're not directed by a board. Any profits go back to members in the form of lower rates or dividends. And so rightfully so, credit unions for a long time have been very risk adverse. They kind of live in a tan and taupe world. And we think for credit unions to maintain relevancy, they've got to step outside of that. They have to play by the rules of retail banking. There are ways we believe you can do that while maintaining your integrity. Clearly, there are some big banks that have been hit with fines just in the last few weeks, even some pretty large ones. And we're not suggesting credit unions should completely step outside of what's made them unique. But we do think that one of the worst things that can happen to a financial institution is to become irrelevant, because irrelevancy leads to insolvency. And so that's what this conference is about. It's bringing together the right people, the right speakers, the right partners, and having one true focus. And that's, how do you maintain relevance with your financial institution?
There were some disturbing statistics that I saw. One was that there are a lot of people out there, and it's mostly because of marketing overspend, where people trust some of these big banks you're talking about more than they trust their local credit union. And credit unions, to your point, Jeff, owned by their members. So that needs to be flipped back upside down again, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the greatest advantages that credit unions have is the fact that they are owned by members and they're governed by a board that's a volunteer board that oftentimes, has a sole purpose, and that's to, maintain relevancy. And obviously, whether you're a bank or credit union, we all offer the same stuff, right? The same products, the same consumer loans, the same checking accounts. There might be little bits of variance here or there. But at the end of the day, how do you connect with your community? How do you, show up and provide relevancy to the community you serve? And that's where I think credit unions, again, can make such an impact, is the fact that the people who are, using the products at credit unions, they're using those for everyday means, right? Big banks, they have a place. And for the most part, over the years, it's been in commercial banking and business banking. But, talk to anybody on the street. When they're going to get a vehicle loan, where are they going? They're going to a credit union. When they're setting up their first accounts, they're going to a credit union. But, especially younger folks, look at Zelle, look at the Apple Card, look at Venmo, how easy it is to set up those accounts. That's where credit unions need to move. They're never going to have the tech budgets that BOA, Chase, or Wells have. But there are great partners out there that can help with some of these relevant products, especially right now, deposit products. And we just encourage all credit unions to think that way. Don't think as a credit union, think as a retail organization, no different than the experience you have when you walk into an Apple store or a Best Buy. How do you create those experiences in your brick and mortar locations and also on your digital experience online?
Well, and I was surprised to see, frankly, when I looked at the list of speakers that you had, this truly is for credit unions and for their members, frankly, who are going to get the benefit of this. relEVENT truly is a technology conference. Yeah,
to a large degree. A lot of times you go to these conferences and they're in these huge conference centers and they have these big exhibit halls. And, we've been on both sides of it where we've organized these events, but we've also attended, and oftentimes, you show up as a vendor and you're in the exhibit hall. And then the doors open and people start walking through like they're trick or treating. They've got their bags out. They just want to see how many stress balls and, containers of, hand gel they can acquire over the next day or two. But what doesn't happen are those conversations about, hey, tell us about your product. Tell us how it can make our credit union better. That's what we really try to do, is identify partners to join us that are on the cutting edge of technology or just, thought leadership. How are you doing things differently? We had great partners from across the industry, and not one of them is doing business as usual, right? It's operating in a different world and understanding that, to maintain relevancy, you've got to continue pushing the edge, not just in your tech, but also in how you use it. Because at the end of the day, we firmly believe that for credit unions to be successful, there has to be a combination of high tech meets high touch. And so it's not just about the technology, because at the end of the day, again, we're a commodity business. everyone has access to the same technology. How do you use it? How do you use it better? How do you use it more efficiently?
Yeah, the take home that I took really on the plane ride back from Las Vegas was that it is that high tech that can make it high touch. You see so many banks, especially in my opinion, that use high tech to get away from that high touch. And for credit unions to be able to do what they do really well already, their competitive advantage, using technology to get more than that was pretty amazing. That was my takeaway. As you were flying back from Vegas though, Jeff, for you, your own conference, what was the biggest surprise that you got during those few days in Las Vegas?
Well, I flew right to the Betty Ford Clinic after 4 days with these releventers. I needed to dry up. No, I'm joking. One of the biggest takeaways I had is that putting on an event like we did at the Cosmo in itself isn't hard to do, right? They have great people there. They have, we didn't have to cook the food. Somebody else serves it. We had to get people there, and we had great partners that helped put on the event. But what really makes our conference stand out are the people who are attending. They're C-level leaders. They're people in the industry that are not wanting to do business as usual. And when they get together and they collaborate and they make connections, that's where, the really exciting stuff happens in our industry, because there needs to be a movement of young leadership. And you're seeing that in credit unions where there's kind of a changing of the guard, where you have these CEOs that have been riding really high capital ratios into retirement because their metric for success was, well, how can we retain capital? Well, let's not look at that new building. Let's not look at that new model for how we could grow our credit union. Instead, success has meant sitting on cash. And so we've got these CEOs now that are coming in from all kinds of different industries. And it's really exciting to see them together when they're collaborating, when they're talking about partnerships and what they're sharing, what they're doing at their financial institutions. That's where I had just a lot of great conversations and heard a lot of exciting things that are happening. And that's really what makes the event is the people, whether it's the vendors, the attendees, that's what makes it unique.
Or the MC, probably the MC is what you meant.
I mean, there's certainly some of that too. Yeah, you did a fantastic job. Thank you again.
Stop, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
That is, I hope what our stackers take away from this is that if you're not attending industry conferences, no matter what industry you're in, that just being in the same room with these people and beginning to create these conversations, every bit as good as the phenomenal speaker lineup, the fact that you get out from the trenches of what you're doing is so important. Jeff, thanks for taking some time away from your vacation. We'll let you get back to vacation, but thanks for a great event and for kicking off today's special episode. I really appreciate it.
Hey, you bet, man. Appreciate it.
I think it is important, OG, that people know what's going on at the credit union. As an example, Jason Vitug, going to credit unions around the United States. Credit unions often have these financial education programs that banks don't have. They will have member benefit things going on. Like there's so much going on at your credit union, even if they don't win the rate game against your bank, probably good to check them out from time to time anyway.
I was going to say, but they likely do.
That's true too.
They likely do win the rate game.
Yeah.
Don't they usually?
And yet credit unions could be so much more. Much more. One of the speakers on day one was a woman named Samantha Paxson. We talked to her when I covered the Think conference in New York City back in 2017. And she's still beating the drum that credit unions should be beating the pants off of banks, which is exciting for all of us that are in any community where you might be able to be a part of a credit union. Here is my interview from relEVENT with Samantha Paxson talking about where she hopes credit unions go. And I'm here with Samantha Paxson, Chief Experience Officer for Co-op, right?
Yes, Co-op Solutions. Yes, great to see you.
Yeah, I saw you back in 2017, and you rocked the stage here at relEVENT. Nice work.
Thank you. Always good to see you, Joe, and have you back. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you. I want to lead off with this because we talk a lot on the podcast about the difference between credit unions and banks. You're somebody that's trying to help credit unions create a better experience, and a great story you told on stage is about your son and what he's looking for. Can we start with your son? Because A, I think it's really cool what he's thinking about at 11 years old. I think that's awesome. But then second, we can talk about that and kind of where you're looking to help credit unions go.
Yes, I just talked about my son wanting to get involved in financial services. He's an 11-year-old boy. His name's Finn. And he said, Mom, I really want to have a debit card, and I want to know how I'm spending, and I want to learn about investing. And should I join a credit union to do that, or should I go with another company or a bank and something else that I would find on my phone? And I said, wow, Finn, sure, I know that you want to go hang out after your junior lifeguard program and go get an ice cream after being at the beach, and then you want to really understand how to manage your money. But investing, that was an exciting thing
cool
for him to ask about.
I wasn't thinking about investing at all in anything but ice cream, I guess, at 11 years old.
Well, it's funny. He and his buddies have gotten interested in it. And one of his best friends, Tavin, opened up an Ameritrade account, and his parents put in $500, which is pretty significant.
Sure.
And he's learning about how to invest. And so Finn, my son, said, Mom, Tavin made $100 and he didn't do anything. And so I said, that's incredible. And he said, I want to learn how to do that. I want to better understand how to invest money and what that even means and how I would know which companies to invest in. And so he asked me, where should I go do that? How can I get the right set of products for me, and which company should I do business with? And as his mom, I work in the credit union industry, and he knows that credit unions are always the provider that does the right thing for the consumer, that they're about people, not profits.
Yeah, we're nonprofit. We have members, not customers. So it seems like we're in alignment.
Yes. The thing that he wasn't quite sure of is, how do I understand what a credit union is going to be able to offer me, and how would I put those solutions together based on what I'm looking for? I mean, it's a pretty sophisticated ask for an 11-year-old, but it's a great example of really what today's consumer is looking for. They're looking for a personalized set of solutions delivered digitally that are going to help them with their short-term financial needs and their long-term financial needs, which was essentially what my son was doing. He says, I want to know how I can spend the money that I earn from doing chores around the house and do it digitally. I want to have a debit card and a phone that I can see how I'm spending. And then I'm really interested in long-term solutions on how can I invest and grow wealth. He's like, I want to be rich when I grow up, Mom. He's like, help me know what that looks like and how to do that.
That's so cool. Somebody wants to stack Benjamins at 11. I just still think that's incredible. And your point was credit unions are in a unique spot to be able to deliver on that. And certainly, much like banks, they're falling short now, but you've got this vision of the future where a credit union could be a place where we could have more of that. Tell me about that.
Any company, regardless of what industry you're in, that isn't focused on the consumer and designing everything around the consumer is missing the mark. And so credit unions have kind of leaned on a product-centric model for the last 20, 30 years,
sure,
and have focused their value proposition on being rate-driven. My 11-year-old son is not focused on rates. He doesn't understand that.
He doesn't care about the difference between a 3% and a 4% rate on the money market versus a bank.
No. And most consumers, unless they're shopping for something really specific, they're really interested in understanding their overall financial position and being able to take the next best action.
And I feel like, Samantha, if they're rate driven now when they come to the credit union, they're going to be rate driven later on. And the second you don't have the better rate, they're gone.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we've seen in the credit union space, that they'll come to you for a rate, but then they'll leave you within the year. So you have to have a stronger value proposition. And this whole idea of improving financial wellness, financial performance, optimizing financial performance of people like you and me is really what the consumer is looking for. And the people like you and me are very empowered. We can go open a Venmo account, a Robinhood account, an Ameritrade account. We can have relationships with several banks. We have our mortgage, our insurance, all of these different things that we do in our financial lives. And it can be overwhelming. It can be really hard to understand, how am I doing? And then be able to put all of those different relationships together and have an aggregate view of your overall financial performance and know what that means for you in the short term. Am I going to be able to pay my bills every month and buy what I need to buy and have money for an emergency, like your car breaking down, or even saving for something that you want to take a vacation, versus long-term financial performance? When can I retire?
Right.
Do I need to have as much in my 401k as I have in liquid? How do I go about changing my behavior as a budgeter or a non-budgeter and improve my daily choices to help those short-term goals and those long-term goals. And that's where the financial services industry really has an opportunity to offer more guidance and more support in the solutions that they deliver.
I was super excited and empowered when I heard you talk about that on the stage just a few minutes ago. And I'm so happy you told me a little bit more about it today. Good seeing you again, by the way. I feel like it's been too long.
It has been too long, Joe. It's so good to see you. And so always good to hear about what's happening at Stacking Benjamins.
I love OG that she talked about her son and how at 11 years old, he's interested in investing. When I was 11 years old, man, I didn't think at all. I didn't think at all about investing.
You were investing in Hot Wheels.
I was. What were you investing in, OG? OG, you were investing in, weren't you selling candy to all of your friends?
So interestingly, when I was 11, I actually got my first job. I was a paper boy in our small town when I was 11, and I made $200 a month, which...
Holy,
it was $1 million to an 11-year-old.
I literally went to the corner store one time and I bought all the Laffy Taffies because they were a nickel a piece. And I was like, I'm just going to keep in groups of 20, because I have so much money. So very early after I started working, I went to the bank and I sat down with the Franklin Templeton mutual fund sales rep at the bank. And my mom thought I was crazy. And so that's how I bought my first car. Was I invested in Franklin Templeton mutual funds.
How about that? Wow.
Yeah, from 11 to 15.
Well, and Samantha's point, all of these stats now show that kids trust banks more than they trust their local credit union. And it's just because they don't know what's going on at the credit union.
Yeah.
And credit union's not doing a good enough job of getting the word out. Like, man, when I heard that 11-year-olds are trusting Bank of America more than their credit union.
Well, I wish I would have learned also the power of letting your money sit, because nobody told me, hey, dummy, don't take all of your investments and cash it out to a depreciating asset for that you're going to wreck 3 times. Like that would have been swell to know at 16, Mom. Thanks. Yeah. So I think there's like a second level of that investing / education piece, which is, time is your friend. And if you happen to start early and just stay out of the way of compounding, that's an important component.
Yeah, that survey is kind of bogus. I mean, it's just all about name recognition. If you then said, who do you trust more with your money, Taylor Swift or Bank of America, they're going to give Taylor Swift all their money. I mean, they have nothing to base their financial trust on at 11 years old.
But the point is, Doug, when they first doing their first saving, when they first set up their first relationship with the financial institution, we know how sticky those are. Mm-hmm. And so that name recognition goes a long way. I mean, there is another, just to do a little rip in here, there's another podcaster who decided to join the iHeartRadio network just because she thought that iHeartRadio she grew up with the name iHeartRadio. She doesn't know that they called it iHeartRadio because they destroyed the name they had before that, and everybody hated the name they had, Clear Channel. Like, if you know the things that iHeart has done, there's no iHeart in iHeart. Sorry, iHeart fans, for me to poke your balloon. But they did.
Just eviscerating them.
Just go do some history. If you just go look at some history. iHeart, anybody who's been in radio will tell you, iHeart singly destroyed FM radio. I should have asked Jeff Simoleon about it back on Monday. But if we grew up with Bank of America, we don't know. Like, we don't have any idea. So I think it's important for credit unions to be able to get the word out and to have, frankly, to Samantha's point, products and services, especially services, right, that kids really can help them do well with their money and give them good financial education from the beginning. All right, we got 3 more interviews coming. We're going to do a recap of what we learned at day 1, which was huge and included Samantha, but some other people as well. We got a couple credit union leaders for that. We're also going to talk about innovation, what's coming to credit unions. Then we're going to talk to a fintech founder who's partnering with credit unions right now to show you that some of that future is happening right around you. But before that, Doug, you've got a trivia question for us. So what do we got today, man?
I do. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And not to sound like Grandpa, but have you seen the price of stamps? They're up to 66 cents now. 66 cents. They call it the Forever Stamp. But I think for accurate marketing, it should be called the Forever Rising Price Stamp. When I run for president, details coming soon, I propose that we go back to the times when the recipient paid for the postage. Thanks a lot, prepaid postage. Speaking of paying for postage, in 1958, famed jeweler Harry Winston paid $2.44 first-class postage. plus $142.05 for the insurance, which I always turn down, to mail a historical donation to the Smithsonian. What was it? It was the 45.5 carat Hope Diamond. The dude put it in the mail. That is a lot of faith in the post office. Speaking of the post office, did you know that on this day in 1775, the U.S. Postal Service was founded during the Second Continental Congress? Yes, and a famous founding father became the very first Postmaster General and known throughout history as the founder of the U.S. Post Office and another amazing American institution. My question is, what man became the first Postmaster General? I'll be back right after I try to steam these stamps off my mail.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Hey there, stackers. I'm go-getter and stamp liquor sticker Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And we're talking about a historical figure that was the founding father of the post office. The first Postmaster General was paid an annual salary of $1,000 plus $340 for a secretary and a comptroller. He held the position for just over 15 months. So my question is, what man became the first Postmaster General? It was, of course, Benjamin Franklin, who was not only the first Postmaster General, but much more importantly, the namesake of this podcast. Truly a huge moment for his legacy and keeping him relevant to this day. And now, let's hear more relevant takeaways with Joe.
We're going to open up the second half here of our interviews. Thanks, Doug, with an interview. But back on postage stamps here for just a second. There's some consternation you got there, Doug, about postage stamps.
66 cents. I could walk it there cheaper.
There's a gentleman that we all know who, has an issue with postage stamps, and you might recognize this voice.
Stamps make me nervous because I don't know how many you're supposed to put on. Where they're going to be like, you should put one more on. And they changed the price of stamps, and that's not in the news, you know. You don't find that out on Twitter. You have to find out from old people. They're the only people that know. They keep up with it. They're like, stamps went up. You're like, okay. Is it $100 a stamp? It's like they're furious. It's 3 more pennies.
It's three more pennies.
They're furious.
Does that classify us as old people, or people are learning the price of stamps went up from our podcast?
Both.
I got no idea. All right. At the end of day one, I was able to corral a couple of credit union leaders. Ann Kirksey's with Elga Credit Union, which is in the great state of Michigan. Michael Abernathy is the head of this Buckeye State. God. Buckeye State Credit Union. And I sat down with this classic Michigan-Ohio battle of what we learned on day one. All right, it's the end of day one, and I'm here with Ann Kirksey from Elga Credit Union and Mike Abernathy from Buckeye State Credit Union. So, Mike, we have to start with you, the elephant in the room. That doesn't mean you're in Ohio, does it?
Oh, it absolutely does. Go Bucks.
Oh, that is horrible. So Ann, why are you so awesome and Mike's not?
I'm from Michigan.
Oh, well, see, there we go. But not University of Michigan. Please, no.
Go Blue.
Oh, no, I can't like either one of you. Are you kidding me?
No jokes.
Oh, I'm so disappointed in both of you. I think our host, Jeff Klein, did this to me on purpose because I'm a Sparty. So there you go. So whenever I meet, just so you know, whenever, Mike, I'm hanging out with Wolverine people, we always say, well, at least you're not a Buckeye. Exactly. And then when we're hanging out with Buckeyes, we go, well, at least you're not a Wolverine.
Right.
Because you two hate each other more than... Anyway, that's all fun stuff. But let's talk about something more fun, which is your members. You're obviously here because you guys care very much about your members. You don't invest in coming to a conference like this if you're not thinking about opportunities to be even more involved in your community. So, and here at the end of the first day, we started off hearing from a guy really, to me, talking about courage and getting online and being kind of where people are. Then we had kind of back to back from two speakers talking about, not financial education. It's not what you know, it's what you do. And really being able to be out there helping your members kind of lead this life and this human-centered design idea. And then we finished it off with a couple CEOs really talking about how they bring that home in different industries. What really, as we end day one, finally getting my question, as we end day one, what do you think hit you the hardest?
Gosh, just building relationships with our members and how many choices are out there. I think the graph today or the visual today said that most consumers have 40 plus relationships with financial companies. So what are we going to do to be different and to really offer everything that someone needs? And maybe we can't offer everything, but there's tons of choices out there. So what are we going to do?
What was your biggest, Mike?
Ron Shevlin reinforced something that we were already talking about, which is it's nice to have the thoughts around financial education, but financial education, bluntly, has fallen flat with consumers. It's financial performance, and they want to see how they're performing. And it almost goes back to the gamification of you want to see how you can continue to move up in the standings and kind of keep scoring away. And it's very important that you're finding digital and efficient and convenient solutions to help people on that journey, because that's what it is. It's a financial journey, not just education or any other term they give to it. It's a journey to your highest potential financial performance.
I want to just then focus on those two topics because I think those are fantastic takeaways from day one. So, Anne, when we talk about all the different choices people have that you mentioned and the fact that Ron, the same guy that Mike talked about, had this slide with all of these different, financial apps people have, even on their phone, they have so many different relationships. It's very difficult to find your member. And yet there's so much, I always see there's so much for the credit unions can do for their members, and yet it's very difficult to find them. So how are you guys out there trying to find your members, your next potential member?
Yeah, so offering, really targeted marketing from a marketing standpoint and understanding where our members are and what they're doing. I think, too, it's important for us to really partner with fintechs instead of trying to reinvent something that might not be as good. It's like, what can we do? Knowing that our members are using these things.
Yeah, so some of the apps on their phone, one of the big themes today was these relationships with these cool fintech creators, these people that are so passionate about just one area. You guys also focused on fintechs, Mike?
A little bit, but I would take just a slightly different approach in how we're trying to reach our potential members. And that is, I learned from a business executive that I listened to his podcast on is, in business, you can be one of three things. You can be better than, less than, or different than. Our credit union 7 years ago was failing. It was really bad. And we focused on just figuring out different than. What can we do that no other bank or even credit union is doing? And that was, we focused on being a first responder to people in financial crisis and being kind of the ER nurse and doctor to help get them their first loan, something they can afford and build up. And once we kind of established that relationship, we started adding layers. And so we started finding efficiencies through different fintechs. So whether it was on the mortgage side or the auto loan side or even on personal loan side, then we started figuring out lead generation so we could reach more, like Simply Focus. Simply Focus is the key sponsor of the event. Well, there's a reason. They're awesome. They have been able to help us reach so many more people in the Northeast Ohio community. And so we've just kind of started with, this is who we're going to be. We're going to be different from everybody else, and then just grow off that and try to expand it. That's kind of where we go with the different philosophies of reaching, but also on the fintech side, using multiple different platforms led by Simply Focused.
Well, when it comes to marketing, I think that differentiation factor is what you have to do. And I mean, it's so hard. I mean, being online and doing this online, Our first speaker today said that, there's a bigger population of people on Facebook than there is in any country on the world. And so if you're not online, it's difficult. Like, how do you differentiate and bring out the fact that the credit union can help so many people?
I think it's interesting because we can tell our story as much as possible, whether we tell it online. But when I was just listening to Mike speak, I was really thinking about word of mouth, because I'm sure that everything that you're doing is, you help one person and they tell 10 people. So I think, too, not only can we tell the stories, but we have members telling their stories online.
It's funny, not even so much online as offline. If we have great partnerships, those will resonate.
Yeah, exactly. I think, we can tell our story, our members tell our story, but it's really those interactions with the members where they're sharing that.
Let's pivot to what Mike talked about, which was here at the end of day one, this idea that financial education programs, I agree that they don't work, but seeing these programs that are more focused on not what you know or importing more knowledge, but helping people do more. Did that resonate with you too?
Yeah, I thought that was all really interesting. I'm not really sure what the next step is for that, how we can do that. I think, we focus on teaching a lot, but how can we really look at people's behavior and help them change that behavior? Yeah. I'm not sure on that one yet.
It is cool, though, because, that's a new frame, Mike, for people really looking at stuff. I know credit unions have been big into the financial education space for a long time, but this would be this kind of human-centered approach about what do they need and how do I help them be, as you said, key performers is a whole new can of worms?
Yeah, it's a new can of worms, but you can also do it in stages. So a lot of what we focus around is we don't give up on education. We give up on traditional education. So we use an online app through your phone that gamifies education, and we got somewhere around 4,000 people in the last 12 months using it, which allows you to move up the standings, to take little quizzes, and then you can earn Amazon gift cards, Walmart gift cards, and there's an incentive for people to do financial education.
It almost gamifies it.
It absolutely gamifies it. And what it does is then that next step, they're already ingrained with us, and now we get them to climb the credit mountain. And so where we have the challenge and we're trying to get better at is showing the stuff on maybe our webs or like our online banking or on our mobile app, showing kind of, okay, you were here, now you're here. That's where we have to kind of fill the gap. And that's where fintechs come into play and having the right partners to deliver that, because you can have this great plan. You can go through this whole journey of showing them their performance and getting better, but people want things quick. Like he said, I can't remember which speaker said it, but a goldfish has the attention span of 8 seconds.
That was Eric, the first guy.
And Eric pointed out that the human has a 7-second attention span.
I don't know. What'd you say? No, I'm kidding.
Right. Well, exactly. Ted Lasso says the same thing, be a goldfish. The reality is that we have to be able to get these tools and get them in front of our members and consumers as quickly as possible, because they're constantly moving on to the next thing. And we want to make sure that this is consistently getting in front of them, in their eyes, their ears, hearing it, and constantly experiencing it, so it becomes valuable to them moving forward. So yes, fintechs have to play a part in that journey to financial performance.
Yeah, and that's so exciting because the creators of those products, as we said earlier, just some people that you don't go into that business unless you're passionate about changing people's lives. We have a difference here in levels of where people are at. Mike, being a CEO of his organization, he can go back and set the terms and say, this is the way we're going. And then his board can say, no, maybe, and he's going elsewhere. But Ann, you've got a different game going on. You have to go to your CEO. You have to talk to them about, hey, I'm excited about this. This is something we should invest in. We heard that. A lot of the things we heard about today are going to take investments. What's something you heard today that you're excited to take back to your leadership team to invest in?
Yeah, I think one thing that really struck me today was all the talk about payments. I think we've really, as credit unions, talked a long time about like the core products. And today, Samantha really talked about the different payments and like the microtransactions. So not always be focusing on the things that only happen every 5 to 7 years, the mortgage, the loans, but how can we be there for our members every day? Like the everyday money movement that like some of the fintechs or others are doing better than we are, that we need to focus on. So it's kind of like thinking of things a little differently. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous, because the big thing they talked about today is if you're working with people on these day by day and minute by minute issues, then they trust you with the big things. And you're in the community anyway, you're a nonprofit, so they should be placing their trust in you more than a Bank of America, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for them. So we want to make sure we have the products and services for them.
See, I got another negative Bank of America in there every chance I get. And where can people find you if they need to know more about your credit union?
So you can find us at elguscu.com or look us up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yours includes the horrible word, but Mike, where can they find you?
www.buckeyecu.org, and you can find us on any social media platform.
Awesome. Wherever finer social media platforms are sold. No, I don't know. All right. Thanks, guys. You can see how there's so much great stuff that you learn at a conference, guys, which brings me, OG, to a big point here that is frankly nothing to do with what the great stuff Michael and Ann had to say. But if you're not going to your industry conferences, you truly are just missing out. Because as Jeff said, it's not about all these great speakers that Michael and Ann talked about and that Jeff set up for this conference. It's actually as much about what happens in the hallways and the connections you make, OG. I think you got to go to industry conferences if at all possible.
Yeah, maybe one or two a year, because depending on the industry that you're in, there could be one every other couple, 3 weeks, And I think the other thing that I get overwhelmed with, and maybe other people feel the same way, is you look at the schedule or you look at the agenda or you look at the time frame and you go, this thing goes Sunday through Thursday. There's breakouts every 45 minutes from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. There's dinners and parties, and that's a lot of stuff. And the reality is that if you can get one or two things, or if you can go in with some prep of, I'm looking for the answer or a solution on one item or one thing I'm working on in my business or in my job, go get that thing and then get the heck out of there. There's no rule that says you have to be at the conference from Sunday morning to Thursday night, and go to all the parties and all the breakouts. Go to the ones that are important to you. And then try to connect with people, like you said.
Yeah.
Have some marketing time.
How are you going to collect all the free beer koozies and keychains if you leave early, though?
Well, you just make the one lap through the show,
with the garbage bag.
The grab bag, yeah. My kids love these little bouncy balls. Can I have 3 of them?
I think it's funny how Jeff opened up this discussion with, that's the thing you really shouldn't care about, but Doug's still all about it.
Like a letter opener.
Yeah.
So hey, don't funny story about this letter opener. I got this at my first bank job in 1997.
And you still have it.
And I still have it from Western National Life Insurance Company.
All right.
You can guess who bought us lunch that day.
And a letter opener, not just lunch, but wait, there's more.
Exactly. And, for all the letters we get, I thought it was apropos based on today's topic.
I got to tell you, there were a few members of this conference that did some great prep work, to your point, OG. Like, not only did they go in and highlight what sessions they really wanted to go to, and I do that now too, because I can't stay awake for everything. I actually have to spend some time in my room by myself as a guy who pretends he's an extrovert, really needs a bunch of time away. So I will skip sessions specifically just to recharge and to start implementing the stuff. Because if I don't implement some of the stuff I learned at a conference right away, like some of the ideas I have, it gets lost in the malaise of work when I get home.
We know when you go to conferences. We're all uniquely aware of the conferences when you're there and when you get back.
Yeah, I've never seen an introvert fake being an extrovert better than you, Joe. Because at a conference, you can't peel you off the floor.
Yeah, it is. I need 3 days alone after a conference. But the prep work ahead of time on the people that are going to be there. What I found very cool was there were a few people, OG, who reached out to me and said, hey, if you get time to share a coffee at relEVENT, it looks like, we might have something in common. Now, this particular conference only had 100 people there, so you can do that. With a 6,000 person conference, you're going to have to be very choosy about who you look at with LinkedIn. I thought that was really people doing their homework and making some great connections by going in, with an agenda. I really, really get discouraged when I see people walk into a conference and just go, okay, show me what you got, with no prep work, no idea of what they want to learn. Like, you really, I think, do have to go there with an agenda. Speaking of that, our agenda on today's episode is to tell you not only, like Samantha said earlier, where credit unions should be going and some of the ideas that Michael and Ann shared, but What are some of the possibilities for the future? Well, Brian Scott's the Chief Growth Officer at PSCU, and he kicked off our second day of the conference by diving into some of the cool, innovative tech happening around the world that we might see back here.
I'm here with Brian Scott. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Well, it was great listening to your presentation. I have to tell you, so this is going to be an old guy story for all of our stackers out there, but you'll appreciate this. I remember I was in second grade, and we had this presentation about how the world of buying things was going to change. And listen to this. We would be able to, at the grocery store, scan our own groceries. And then you could pay for them using a machine. And I was like, holy cow, it's like the Jetsons, right? And now, of course, I go in and I'm like, oh, damn, I got to scan my own groceries. And I use the little machine there. But what's cool is you're a guy that looks at this stuff all the time. How did you get involved talking about growth and how banks and credit unions can grow?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. If you look across the world, there's financial institutions doing really cool and unique and interesting things. And here in the U.S., maybe not as much. And we think we're technologically advanced here in the U.S., but when you compare us to stuff that's happening around the world, we're not. And so I got super interested because I had a discussion with a credit union CEO who was from Ukraine. I was like, wow, must be great having all this technology here. And he's like, actually, Ukraine's so much better.
Wow.
And it started me really looking like, what's the rest of the world doing? And figuring out, they're far more advanced than us. So that's kind of spurred my interest in this. And it's kind of been a rabbit hole. You keep going down and finding really cool stuff that's happening in other parts of the world and hoping, how do we bring that here?
Well, let's talk about that, because you talked on two fronts this morning to us. First of all, to your point of around the world, and then second, some of the cool things, like you gave us a great story about Nordstrom and some stuff they're doing. But let's start there. Let's start with around the world, about Africa and Asia and other places.
Well, some of these things, like M-Pesa in Kenya, it came out of necessity. So they didn't have landline phone lines. Poor country, it's hard to install landline phone lines, but super easy to put up a pop-up cell tower and sell $1 cell phones that just, the basic Nokia flip phone, whatever. And people started using their phones to trade things like minutes. Minutes became like a currency, and all of a sudden, the phone company is now acting like a bank. People are storing minutes as money. They're using minutes to pay other people. They actually start...
It's almost like a broker.
Yeah, they also start lending minutes. And so now all of a sudden, the phone company in Kenya is as good or better than a bank. And it was just born out of necessity. People needed a way to pay each other. And because cell phones were so ubiquitous, more so than in the U.S., that became the predominant technology.
What might we see from that here in the future? Do you see is there any takeaway for the U.S. and U.S. banks based on some of that cool stuff happening in Africa?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is we have to let regulations get out of the way. We so over-regulate, and I talked this morning about one of the first things when new technology comes out, people are like, how are we going to regulate that? How are we going to prevent bad actors? Other countries focus on how do we use this for good? How do we use this for cool things? So I think part of it is our regulation mindset that we need to get out of the way of.
That's interesting. Well, it makes me think, ACH is still here, right? I mean, 3 days, it's the same as it was in like 1993 when I started my career.
Right. And, there's countries like Japan that have had real-time payments for 40 years. Like, how are we not as advanced as Japan in that? So, yeah.
Come on, we could be Japan. Come on, I don't know. Let's talk about here some cool stuff we're seeing. You talked about companies. Let's talk about Nordstrom as an example. Some of the experience changing for people, and this is good for, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, so there's a lot of companies like Nordstrom that are starting to invest in branch or in-store versus for the last 10 years, a lot of people were thinking digital. We have to go digital. And so Nordstrom is thinking about how do we invest in-store and create an in-store experience that's so exceptional you want to go into the store. And when you do, you have a great experience and you keep coming back to in-store. And, in-store sales are up. And so what they're doing is they'll track you exactly where you are in the store. They'll bring you things that they think you want.
This part felt Big Brother at first. I was like, so if anybody's listening to this and they're going, ooh, I don't know if I like this, wait, there's more.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. And so if they bring me a Tommy Bahama shirt that they think I'll like, and it's like, oh yeah, it's in my size, it looks like something I'd buy, then they'll say you could buy it here today for $120, or you can go down the street and get it from Nordstrom Rack for $60. Or we'll ship it to you, and we'll also only charge you $60 because it's on sale there, just not here. And now all of a sudden it goes from Big Brother to, oh, you've got my best interest in mind. Every time I come into your store, I'm going to make sure my app's on, so you're tracking me, you know where I'm at, you know what I'd like, and hopefully you're going to bring me better deals in the future. So,
and your big point this morning was, from a business standpoint, because here we're really, credit unions are businesses, nonprofit businesses, but still businesses. The overarching message, I think, was that they already made the sale. They had a ton of profit that they just gave away, but they're seeing the big picture.
100%. And so, like, how many times does, from a credit union perspective, a member come in and say, yeah, I'm ready to take that auto loan for 5.9%. And you say, you know what, we can get you a better deal. Like, you've already made that sale, and very few times would a credit union or a bank make that decision to say, no, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you make a better financial decision, even though it costs me money.
And then that trust creates a customer for life.
It creates a customer for life, and it creates word of mouth. It creates all the other positive things. So there's an investment you're making by creating that trust.
Brian, I would say that's marginally cooler than scanning your own groceries.
Scanning your own groceries is the worst. I absolutely hate it. I hate it.
The future is not as cool as it seems. Brian, thanks for hanging out for a second.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
This is Chris from Heavy Metal Money. When I'm not raging in a mosh pit, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Thanks to Brian. I always loved watching the Jetsons. I'm like, wow, we can look at a TV and we'll see each other and we can talk via TV. It's amazing. Maybe we'll call it like a Zoomer, something like that. How cool would that be?
Meet George Jetson.
But I like this idea about making banking more high touch, OG, because we see so many companies use technology to cut people. And I know, Doug, was a big part of your career, not cutting people through tech.
The axe man. That's what they called him. The Grim Reaper.
I could have introduced that a little better.
I set up a lot of meetings late on a Friday afternoon for people.
Right. Where people are bringing their crate full of
You
desk
invested
stuff.
in boxes. Bankers boxes.
But no, you can use tech to just cut, and you cut the customer experience and the customer relationship with the brand. Or, Doug, you can make that relationship like Nordstrom is, where it brings you closer. Credit unions have this opportunity to do the same.
Yeah, they definitely can. I worked in technology for years, and I can't remember a time, at least not one that comes to mind, where any of the big projects that we were working on, sole purpose was to eliminate people. It was typically to enhance or add services, which I think is what you're getting at, which is what the financial industry really ought to be focusing their time on. This is not in the financial industry, but I just had an experience that was fantastic. I was on a really huge photography retailer, B&H Photo in New York City, chatting about a product via IM, just text. I had a question that they couldn't answer without showing me the product, and they said, "Do you want us to convert this to a video call and we'll connect you with somebody in our store and they can show you the product?"
That's cool.
And that I thought was a fantastic use of technology to actually enhance the human, as you called it, the touch factor, right? I mean, virtual touch, but what a great way to do that. And I'm sure that actually means they need more people to be able to handle all the yokels like me that are out in the hinterlands that, have some question about photography gear, and they're going to do a video chat with me in the store. It was awesome.
Guy Raz did a great interview with the guy that helped turn around Best Buy, linking the store experience to the online experience. And we'll link to that as another indicator of what Brian's talking about is possible. One of the speakers, I don't remember who it was, talked about the number of banking related apps we have. And because of banks going all technology, that we don't have the loyalty that we used to have. And I thought about mine. I have my credit union. I actually have two different credit unions that I'm involved with, Navy Federal and MSU Federal Credit Union. I've got a community bank. I have a Venmo account. I have a PayPal account. I think and I have a different bank. We have two different banks for the business. So I've got 7 different banking relationships on my phone, just because we've used technology to cheapen those relationships. And then you think through the different credit cards that you have as well, which are often tied to banking, like JP Morgan Chase or Capital One as examples. There's even more. So being able to make that an experience more and bring people closer to their credit union, I think is really cool. A guy who's done this, who's in fintech right now, is a gentleman named Chris Bonsamino. Chris is super passionate about what he does. But what's amazing to me is Chris's background. We're going to start off talking about his background and then really showing how some of this future Brian talked about is happening today. And rounding out our coverage of CU Relevant, Chris Bonsamino is here. How are you, man?
Hey, Joe, I'm 100%. I love it. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's funny. When you and I spoke originally at the conference, I don't think either one of us were 100% because we've been through 3 days of just fantastic talks and our heads were full. And of course, just all the stuff that comes with Vegas. So you've recovered.
Very much so. Yeah, I can see straight again. Everything is back at 100%, and I'm glad to be here today.
Well, we just talked to Brian Scott about what's practical, what is possible in tech, but you're truly on the front edge, on the fintech front edge. But I got to ask you, whenever I talk to a fintech founder, there's somebody like you, Chris. I look at your resume. I'm thinking, why do I leave some of these cushy ass jobs that they had these with these companies, some great names that people know, to do what they do? Can you talk about where you used to work first and how you got going more on a fintech motion?
Sure. Be happy to. First of all, I love being a fintech founder today. And the reason I love it so much is that the action's on the frontier. Like, it is a frontier job. It is never the same day twice. The highs are higher, the lows are lower, but it's all action all the time. My background is, I was a corporate person for a long time. I was most recently an executive at Visa. Always doing
never heard of it.
and,
tell us about that company. I don't know what you're. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, Visa, the large global network. In particular, the global part. I lived and worked with my family in Asia for half of my tenure at Visa. Always wanted to be in Asia. If you're familiar with those markets, many of them are all digital. And to me, as a payments professional, being in and working on and developing the frontier in those markets is why that particular part of my career is important. Being at Visa for Australia, for China, for India during demonetization, for what's happening in Korea and across Southeast Asia, those payment markets, we have a lot to learn from what they're doing in those markets today. And we want to bring that to the US. So my background at Visa for 8 years, I was at PayPal before that, all those tweaking and building, and hopefully you're using those products today because I worked hard on them.
What are some of those things in Asia that you're trying to bring to America?
Well, I think it's very notable. And a lot of people have looked at, like, China in particular, at the super apps, right? Love them or hate them, they're very interesting. There's two in particular. There's WeChat Pay and Alipay. And basically in the span of about 6 years, they moved from being online only payment methods to cleaning up 90% of all mobile payments in the market today. And it's all digital. That means there's no cards. There's essentially no interchange. And interchange is the method by which merchants sort of pay for the ability to use the payment method that flows back to the consumer. My point here is, when there's no interchange, there's no method to create a reward structure, like a cashback reward structure for consumers. So how do you motivate people so quickly to use your payment method? And when you look at it and you look at those payment methods, you see that since they're on device, they're totally mobile, they're light years ahead of where we are in the US today, which is basically plastic, just touching the edges of digital. So what happens when it's on the device? Well, first of all, your fraud goes right to the floor because you can validate. Secondly, at the moment of the payment, you can activate a whole bunch of experiences. Yes, there are rewards. You can do offers better. You can locate the consumer better. You can tell them things about the payment. You can activate a buy now, pay later facility. You can gamify the experience. All those things can happen when you have a device in the equation.
We've been trying
not when you have a plastic card.
Well, sure. And we've been trying to, this entire episode, we've talked about how credit unions are just trying to get people's attention to let them know that they have so many things that they can do well. And a reward structure around, like their debit card, as an example, could be a huge win for them. I do have a question for you about payments in general, which is on our Monday show, Chris, we reported on, of course, this new news from last week about the Fed changing the game a little bit when it comes to payments. How do you see this new Fed program as affecting what you do? Is this finally the end of ACH?
Time will tell. I can tell you this about Fed now, and the announcement, this is a long time in going. I think whenever you look at anything in payments, in particular, consumer payments and payments at the point of sale, it's always a very long game. It always is. And consumer behavior is very entrenched. It is hard to change your behavior and my behavior at the physical point of sale and elsewhere. So I think there's definitely some structural benefits to what's happening, and the Fed should do it. When it flows most immediately to what we're talking about today and payments, retail payments, it's going to be a long time before some of these technologies make their way all the way to the edge like that. So I'm pretty confident that the work we're talking about today, the technology and the platform, the SRM key moments is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's going to benefit credit unions for a long time. And it's definitely something we should be activating on today to engage members and drive more payment volume.
Well, let's take this cerebral discussion we're having and let's really dive in, because with SRM, you, sir, have worked with a credit union near and dear to my heart, Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. So as an example of the work that you're doing, talk about how you help this credit union kind of work with their members.
MSU-FCU, Michigan State University Federal Credit Union, has for a long time been super active and super progressive with all the products. And they're out there. Like, they're just a fantastic credit union to work with. What we did for MSU FCU, we created a real-time method to engage their members at the point of sale. So when you pull an MSU FCU card out of your wallet, and I actually have one right here, it's got a Spartan right on there.
There you go.
And you use it in the real-time payment moment. I'm talking like 1,000 milliseconds after you swipe your card at a Jamba Juice, let's say, on your device in the MSU FCU app. We know when a payment alert comes up, it says $8 at Jamba Juice, confirms the merchant, but then opens to a larger experience in the MSU FCU app. And that experience could be 3 more offers that you can add to your MSU FCU wallet for other purchases around you and save money. It could be, if you're a low transactor, a challenge campaign to get a reward after, say, 5 more transactions. These are the types of things that we're focusing for and around members to bring confirmation to the payment and add value to the payment simultaneously.
You told me, Chris, and we were live too, it's great because people wouldn't get any confirmation of their transaction at all before you did this. And so in terms of fraud, it's also very helpful to know, oh yeah, I made this thing, or if somebody's somehow gotten a hold of my card, I didn't make that transaction.
Yeah. Payment alerts are good hygiene. In fact, all the networks have a reg for a payment alert, and how the credit union or the issuer decides that that's their own business. But payment alerts stop fraud. The stories never end about people like waking up in the morning and seeing like a payment alert from some gas pump in the middle of America. Like, I wasn't there last night. And then you could take action. That's what that's all about. Our point, though, and our hypothesis is that payment alert is important. But why stop there? Why not take that payment alert, turn it a little bit further, pull it into the credit union's app, and then maximize it with an experience that's interesting to them? And we can gamify it. We can put a scratch card behind it. We can tell them about another product that the credit union is selling. Like, that's a great moment for a cross-sell. You've got a 5.12% CD. Like, put that information out there and get some action going across the credit. That's what the whole platform, SRM Key Moments, is about, is using that key moment of the payment to apply other useful things to the moment and give that to the member.
And I know some of our stackers, Chris, are thinking, wow, some of this sounds, maybe a little manipulative. Sounds like, we're doing these things to entice people to access their checking account. But I want our stackers to think about what's going on at Bank of America and what's going on at Wells Fargo, where they're already doing this stuff. Like, they've been doing this stuff forever. And the fact that credit unions can go to the cutting edge, and these are organizations where the members are owners, that this just helps people deal with an organization like a credit union versus some of these big banks.
Oh gosh, help them for sure. There is a vast universe of helpful things that you could bring to a member in the payment moment that don't exist today. A plastic card doesn't have a screen, and it doesn't have an antenna to reach out to the internet. When you've got a device in the app that you are trying to get your members to use, your own app, activate that thing. Your Bank of America examples are good. I look a little more global.
Sure.
For example, I've seen this use case come up over and over of like when your members travel and say they're taking their credit cards abroad. Excellent. Like you can tell them in real time when they land in a vacation in Italy. Joe, you're going to Italy, let's say, and you spend.
I like this story so far.
You spend €100. What is that going to settle at? You probably don't know. Or if you spend 1.2 million Vietnamese dong, what's that going to be in USD? Nobody knows. But you can, since you've got your app and we listen to the transaction feed in these key moments, you can instantly say, 1.2 million Vietnamese dong, that's $23.67. And that's immediately helpful to your traveling member in a day-to-day payment problem. You can do it abroad, but the same situations and utility elements exist here in the US. It's just opening up and thinking what should be done in the moment.
I think it's so powerful and so helpful, but it can also be just some fairly, very light, just fun games to get people involved. I know when Michigan State has sporting events, you help them put together some playful stuff around sporting events.
Right. Look, for a credit union, evaluate what you have in inventory. And by that, I mean sponsorship properties, local events you want to talk about. In FCU's case, they have a very tight relationship with the university, the Spartans, Michigan State University. In fact, they have women's basketball and men's basketball and hockey and football. The same platform powers what they call FCU game day. And what happens on like a home football game, like 2 hours prior to kickoff, members get a notification that says it's game day, and they play a little 25-second long game. It's actually really fun. And you kick a football, for example, through the goalposts, and it's actually really fun. But then every time you use your payment card on game day, you get another chance to play. And what we see is the college students really getting excited about this. But the point is, when you drive over 26% engagement, you don't get those results through mail or email. These things are connecting with things that the members care about at FCU and doing some really fun things. The same thing can be done for you. We've got some other clients that have similar gamified experiences around their music venues, around other sporting venues. That's how you take those investments you've made and really turn them up and make them valuable.
That's fabulous. And then intersect with them. People think about their money more often, and they do a better job of managing their money, fighting fraud, all the above. Chris, man, if people are here with a credit union, they want to find out more about the work you do, how do they find you?
Sure. You can go, SRM Key Moments is available through the company SRM Strategic Resource Management. So reach out through the website, or you can reach me directly at cbonsimino@srmcorp.com. And that's a long one. Maybe we've got some.
Oh, you know what we'll do, Chris?
We'll put it in the foot.
We will. We'll put it in the show notes at stackybenjamins.com. How about that?
Okay, that's probably the best way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, Chris,
or LinkedIn Connect.
I love the 1-2 punch of you and Brian showing what's possible, and you showing, nope, it's possible right now, man. Thanks for hanging out with us for a minute.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Phenomenal. How the future happening right now. Big thanks to Chris for hanging out. Hey, time to wrap this thing before we send it over to Doug.
Oh,
the other wrap. Oh, to see exactly what we should have learned today. But before that, again, we are celebrating Kate's birthday coming up. She's got a big milestone birthday coming up, and we're going to give away some Sennheiser wireless over-the-ear noise canceling headphones. Great headphones. Sennheiser's the same mics that our friends at NPR use to make those podcasts that are nearly as good as this one. Go to stackybenjamins.com/birthday bash. And if you sign up for the 201, our newsletter that goes over what we talked about on Monday, Wednesday, on our Tuesday, Thursday episodes. By the way, you can, if you happen to accidentally miss an episode, and I know how much that hurts you, still you can read the 201. Kevin does a great job of making sure that that's written agnostically, but stackybenjamins.com/birthday bash. If you already get the 201, we thought about you too. We'll give you an entry and your friend an entry when you refer somebody using your unique referral code, and you'll find that referral code inside the 201. That is that. Last but not least, if you're not here for a newsletter or to win some Sennheiser wireless headphones or to celebrate Kate's birthday or any of that, you're here because you really need a better team in your corner. Head to stackybenjamins.com/OG. That's where you go to get on OG's calendar, because he and his team are taking clients. And if you have done not as much as you should have when it comes to your financial planning so far this year, you still got a few months left to get going. StackingBenjamins.com/OG. All right. I think that puts a pin in it. Doug, take it from here, man. What should we have learned today?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from our guests and ask your local credit union what they can do for you. You just might be surprised by the range of services they offer. Second, getting started with investing? Don't worry so much about great diversification. Find a broad index like the total stock market and dive in. Later, use tools like the Efficient Frontier to help your money grow wings. But the big lesson? Listen, I tried my postal hack. Turns out postal workers don't like it when you walk their entire route with them. Thanks to Jeff, Mike, Ann, Samantha, Brian, and Chris for joining us today. You can find out more about all of their work in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2023, and is created by Joe Salsihai. Our producer is Karen Repine. This show was written by Lacey Langford, who's also the host of the Military Money Show, with help from me, Joe, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. Kevin Bailey helps us take a deeper dive into all the topics covered on each episode in our newsletter called The 201. You'll find the 411 on all things money at the 201. Just visit stackingbenjamins.com/201. Tina Eichenberg makes the video version of this show. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Mom's friend Gertrude and Kate Yunkin are our social media coordinators, and Gertrude is the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So, say hello when you see us posting online. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. Not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamins Show.
Guys, I saw this while I'm searching TikTok furiously for some great stuff for our show. This has nothing to do with money, but I think we all need a friend like this.
What were you searching TikTok furiously for, Joe?
For
late at night.
For financial tips.
Oh, right.
Yes. I get lots of hilarity, but this one, this is a special kind of friend who attended his buddy's wedding.
This is my buddy Bobby. He was an usher at my wedding, and he had one request, and that was to wear a kilt. And why did you wear the kilt, Bobby?
Well, later on in the night, I thought it would be a great idea to dye my balls green with food coloring.
And then what did you do once you had green balls and a kilt?
I walked around, I mingled, and I showed everyone my privates, i.e. balls.
Saying?
Lifted up my kilt and said, Hulk smash.
Yeah. How many times did my sister-in-law see your balls at my wedding?
19.
And was there anything you learned from this experience?
It takes approximately 3 weeks to get food coloring off human skin. 4 weeks on the crinkled skin down there.
What?
All the stuff you don't want to know.
Stuff that shows up in your automatic feed, Joe, is really just beyond me.
What were your search terms?
I mean, I got like airplane videos on YouTube, occasionally some stuff about the Marine
not
Corps.
even searching.
I know, that's the point. I get it.
I'm just
flipping. I
flipping.
get it. I know how it works. It's based on what you have recently looked at. So
I got a lot of comedians in my search history.
Not sure why.
How many times did my sister-in-law see her green balls? 21. He says with a totally straight face. 21.
Wow. Fun times.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing, Joe.
You're going to want to delete your search history, bro. Start over. Clear the cache, buddy. Clear the cache. Start over. Get a new computer.
That was very funny. That was good stuff.